By the time the tow truck started backing down the boat ramp, the sheriff was already laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but full-on hand on holster, trying not to ease laughter as Patricia Denholm, president of the Lakeside Ridge HOA, pointed at my wake boat and shrieked that my vessel was in violation of community scale parameters. The tow driver looked confused. I raised my hand and told him I was literally standing on the boat. The sheriff waved Patricia's stack of papers and explained that her removal order was not a legal document, but a Word template with her logo on it. Patricia insisted it was an official HOA enforcement notice and that my 22-foot boat was too large and aggressive. I tapped the hull and told her it was 22 feet. I also added, and I own the lake. Patricia rolled her eyes and said I couldn't own a lake. I smiled, pulled a folded packet from my waterproof duffel, and handed it to the sheriff. He read the first page, stopped laughing, and carefully said Patricia's name. He explained that what I had given him wasn't just registration, but the actual deed. Patricia demanded to know the deed to what. He turned the page so she could see the bold title, Title to Silver Pine Lake and Associated Literal Rights. My name is Grant Walker. I'm a systems engineer. Everyone assumed Silver Pine Lake was community property. I only found out the original developer kept ownership of the lake bed in a separate LLC. My attorney traced the chain, and for an insane bargain, I bought the lake. I became the slightly bewildered owner of the entire lake and all-exclusive licensing authority. I kept it quiet. 3 weeks after moving in, I took delivery of my dream boat, a gleaming deep blue 22-foot wake boat. From that moment, Patricia, the HOA president, decided I was her white whale. The first note appeared on my door, violation notice for oversized watercraft. It claimed my boat exceeded 18 feet and disrupted community aesthetics. I politely replied that the HOA had no recorded boat restriction and no jurisdiction over Silver Pine Lake because it did not own the lake bed or associated rights. Patricia escalated to full surveillance, timing my wake surfing drills with binoculars. She launched email campaigns claiming my aggressive wake pattern put children and ducks at risk. She issued made-up citations, unauthorized docking at my own shoreline, non-compliant hull color. The final straw was the letter, final warning. Your boat will be removed at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning by a contracted towing service. I read it, forwarded it to my attorney, and pulled out my documents. Saturday at 10 a.m., Patricia marched beside the tow truck, blowing a whistle. She announced loudly that my boat was hereby impounded by authority of the Lakeside Ridge HOA. I stepped off the dock and warned that if he touched my boat, he was trespassing on privately owned water. Patricia laughed. You shouldn't be ridiculous. The lake was common space. It said so on the brochure. The sheriff pulled up just in time. Patricia shoved her homemade paperwork at him. He asked where the court order was. She snapped they didn't need one. The HOA had supremacy over shared resources. I handed him my packet, the title history, the tax sale records, the deed to Silver Pine Lake. He got very quiet. He confirmed I had sole authority to grant or revoke access, dock permits, and motorized usage. He turned to Patricia and told her bluntly, if you don't have a deed, you don't own it. He told the tow driver he'd be committing theft. The driver immediately stepped away from the truck. Patricia was furious. You can't just decide who uses the lake. That would make you some kind of water tyrant. I smiled. That's the thing. Right now, I am the nice tyrant. But if you're going to threaten to tow my boat, things are about to change. The next week, I sent a formal notice to Lakeside Ridge HOA. I was rescinding all informal privileges previously extended to their association. They could sign a new license agreement, which required them to acknowledge in writing they do not own the lake and pay a modest annual fee, or cease all organized use. The license could be terminated for harassment or unauthorized enforcement threats. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. Their own attorney gently explained that yes, this was extremely real, and their insurance would not cover them for unauthorized property enforcement. I put up signs at the community beach, HOA-sponsored activities prohibited. Unlicensed organizational use of Silver Pine Lake is not authorized. At the Yacht and Paddle Sport Club season kickoff, Patricia arrived, dragging her cart of clipboards. I stepped forward and told her that was me kicking her entire club off my lake. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of Patricia's voice from the tow day. This boat is hereby impounded by authority of the Lakeside Ridge HOA. We own this lake. The board's vice president cleared his throat and announced that given the legal risk, the board had voted not to sign the license agreement under current leadership. Patricia spun to her board, furious. The treasurer explained they couldn't afford the insurance implications. A dad in the crowd shook his head. She picked a fight with a guy who literally owns the water over a boat that honestly looked pretty cool. The vice president then moved to remove Patricia Denholm as HOA president and as chair of all lake-related committees, effective immediately.
Hands shot up.
The motion passed by a humiliating landslide. Patricia stood frozen, her clipboard falling from her hands as the crowd dispersed, leaving her alone on the beach.